interrogated her, handcuffed her, took her to jail without letting her even contact her mother. This is a minor.
For a drawing. That is so freaking ridiculous.
That's just, I don't agree with it, honey. I don't think that's right at all. I don't think they have any right to arrest anybody for a drawing.
I agree with extreme punishment. I absolutely do. I do not agree that parents should have the ability to demand that you call the police over a fucking drawing
on a child.
Now, on the other hand, if you get tired of AOC screeching about climate change when this thing doesn't even have a high school diploma, how she got elected is beyond me. I honestly think that you should lock her up. Seriously.
I'm sorry, I don't agree that a 10-year-old child anyone should be arrested for a drawing.
No, it's a total violation of the First Amendment.
Yes, it's a drawing. It's not a bob.
Good evening, guys. Or afternoon. This is actually a weird time for me to be broadcasting. Yeah, if you heard the cross chatter, there was actually a 10-year-old girl in Hawaii who was arrested for a drawing. No threats were made. There was no scuffle, whatever. The parents of the child that the drawing was supposed to be of didn't like the drawing, so they demanded that the police get involved, and the school authorities actually complied. It's the most ridiculous thing I've ever heard. But then again, we live in a world that kids are taught that men can have babies, and AOC is intelligent. I mean, seriously, where woke Karens actually worship the overused stale tampons on The View, and we're supposed to do what they say. I'm sorry. No, it is seriously time to rethink things in this country, even this world. Especially when some little girl doodling on probably a notepad, not even a sketch pad, gets punished because she was a victim of a bully and she was just retaliating. Yeah, there's a lot going on there that really should not be the case. As you probably heard, speaking of bullying, Colorado successfully removed Donald Trump from the presidential ballot for 24 for a fake insurrection, which got me thinking, because if you remember, ever since the events of January 6th, 2021 in Washington, D.C., the press and the elected scumbags were pushing the narrative of insurrection. I'm actually thinking it was intentional. We already know that there were FBI subservients in the crowd stoking stoking the narrative and encouraging people to break windows and try to get in the building. We already know that the only protester that actually got shot was a patriotic Marine that was shot by a Capitol Police thug that works for the Speaker of the House at the time, Nancy Pelosi. If you hadn't been paying attention, every photograph of the National Guard standing around the fences around the Capitol building after 9/11 or 9/11, after January 6th, did not have magazines in their rifles. They didn't even have magazines on their bandoliers. They were unarmed. They were just holding props to try to intimidate. Well, let's get real. The only people that would be intimidated by an unloaded weapon is a freaking woke tard that knows nothing about guns. So they never felt threatened. They never felt that there needed to be military action. It was all theater. And then you have this so-called January 6th bomber that put together a Hollywood prop. Anybody that knows anything about demolitions knows that the use of an egg timer is only something that would work in Hollywood because the writers wanted it to work. There's no spark, there's no electrical current generated from the timer going off. All it is a spring and a bell. What are you going to do? Put a red cap underneath the bell and let the hammer strike it? That would work maybe 1 out of 1,000,000 times. No, if you're going to build a bomb, it's actually, you want it to work 100% of the time because you don't have another chance for it to go off. This was a movie prop. This is a movie prop put under both, or in the vicinity of the DNC and the RNC. By somebody that was probably paid by the Democrat Party in order to stoke fear in the liberals to buy into the narrative that there was an insurrection. Just think about that. Okay? The only people that actually buy into liberalism are the people that were never taught to think. They were never actually taught to examine the evidence and apply science to what the evidence is actually saying. And that's the bulk of America, unfortunately. The federal government has successfully indoctrinated people into believing everything that they say. And it is really sad that that's the truth, but it is. And part of it comes down to the over-authoritarian regimes in the indoctrination centers that we call public schools. If your kids are in public school, take them out now. Never look back. In the neighborhood that my wife and I live in, we have parents that will actually take in other kids and or so they can be homeschooled with their kids, because we've realized that there are so many problems with the public schools. The child molestation, the sex trafficking, the woke propaganda. It's all a problem. So ask around. If you go to the Fred Meyer's just down the street from my house, there's a community board that actually has parents asking if there are any parents that want to take their kids out of school, because they're willing to educate their kids. Sometimes there's a fee involved. Most of the time, it's just highly religious couples that really do not believe that the public schools should exist. Because unfortunately, the indoctrination starts, like Tom McDonald says, as soon as you come out of the womb. Don't let it happen. Don't let it happen. Your kid's future is much more important than whether or not you're going to have a woke president the next time around. So what does it mean that Colorado successfully took Donald Trump off the ballot? Well, there are several other states that will probably follow suit. So essentially, the Democrat Party figured out a way to eliminate the opposition from the election. They rigged the election. Flat out. That's what it means. Before we even get there, they rigged the election. Now, there is a bit of a caveat there. In the infinite wisdom of the great moron in chief, he is trying to get the Supreme Court to rule on two items in the Trump case. One of them being presidential privilege. If presidential privilege is ruled in favor of Donald Trump, because he was still president at the time, everything, including the Colorado case, is thrown out with one stroke of a pen. The reason being, if the president of the United States cannot function as president of the United States, we have no reason to have a president. So there are certain protections that the president has to have in order to do his job. And that's actually an ace in the hole for the cause of freedom in this particular case. The other one is what the implications were for the documents that President Trump had a right to have. Think about this. Biden is actually trying to push for a ruling on whether or not President Trump had a right to have classified documents at Mar-a-Lago. Okay, President Trump was still president. And he says he declassified them before he took them out of the White House. The caveat there is Joe Biden wasn't president. He was vice president, had no right to the documents at all. And he had 3 places that he was stowing sensitive information. And we already know that he was selling the information to China and Ukraine. We know that through the Hunter Biden laptop, the influence peddling, and the other scandals that are going on around the Biden camp. So, in the infinite moronic actions of the current president, he may have just given Donald Trump I can't talk. He may have just given Donald Trump a checkmate. Because if the ruling for Donald Trump on the sensitive information found at Mar-a-Lago goes in his favor, it automatically means that that Joe Biden's looked at for treason. This is actually a very funny time if you're a patriot sitting on the sidelines just watching the politics unfold. It's hilarious, especially if you know the laws at all. So if you don't know the laws, which I honestly believe that if you are an American citizen, if you are a patriot at all, if you cannot quote the entire document of the Constitution of the United States, all of it, not just the Bill of Rights, you have no right to call yourself an American. And I believe that should start probably from the first grade on. Also, if you cannot talk your way out of a speeding ticket from one of these tyrants with a badge without citing the stupid the sovereign citizen bullshit is just that bullshit. First of all, they do it wrong. I've been a sovereign citizen activist probably for 20 years. I have never gotten in trouble with the cops. I've never been to jail for it. And here's the funny thing. You see these people on YouTube or whatever streaming service that you might use, claiming whatever rights they think that they have by virtue of being a sovereign citizen to the cops. It's not the cops' decision. Never will be. They're enforcers of the law. They don't rule on the law. They don't make the law. So for you to argue with the cop is actually saying, hey, I really have no right to be free on the street because I'm an absolute moron. How you do it and how you do it correctly is you cooperate with the cop, you take the ticket, you go to the freaking judge, you cite your case. But if you cite your case, you need to know every precedent of law that has to do with your case. You need to be able to argue it backward and forward from memory. And then, once you do not give the judge a chance to judge a chance to rule. Just turn around, walk out, and he will not challenge you. If you delivered your case correctly, that judge might actually stop you before you leave the room, because it's happened to me. And he'll ask to see you when he's done with the court proceedings. Then you have dinner with him. Because most judges that actually know their job, actually know the law, respect somebody that can actually defend themselves in a courtroom without a lawyer. All right. One of the problems that we have in this country is the total abuse of the press. Well, that and the lack of an actual intelligent population. The press cannot get away with half the crap that they do if the American population actually had two brain cells to rub together collectively, but they don't. By that I mean, in the case of Donald Trump with the with whatever documents were found in Mar-a-Lago, when the press started their propaganda against it, every citizen should have been going, but who makes it classified? Who is it that actually says this is classified information? Because the ultimate answer is the man that was holding the documents. Any reasonable person would have automatically said, then they're probably not classified. Instead, we have masses of people that are just so gung-ho about going after a president that they were taught not to like. They don't actually have a reason why they don't like Trump. Nobody that I've talked to that says that they hate Trump actually has a reason why they don't like Trump. So for them to actually say that that they finally have something on Trump is really just a victory for the deep state. They make blanket statements like Donald Trump's a racist. Excuse me? I have never seen Donald Trump in a Ku Klux Klan outfit, but I've got several pictures of Joe Biden burning crosses in a Ku Klux Klan outfit. But Trump's a racist. They go by what the press is saying. They don't look into it. They even redefine what a racist is in order to fit their narrative. Is this dangerous? Well, when you're redefining words in order to fit whatever your narrative is, it's always dangerous. Usually dangerous against the person that you're speaking out against. But what people don't seem to understand is if they can reinterpret what is already written to put a form, as far as I'm concerned, Donald Trump is the sitting president, because there's no way in hell that the retard in the Oval Office right now was ever elected. But at the time of January 6th, Donald Trump was a sitting president. And the press goes after him. Nancy Pelosi and other vipers in the pit go after him. Redefining what an insurrection is. Okay? And here's the interesting argument. Donald Trump, according to the press, had already lost the presidency. He had already lost the election. Meaning that under their narrative, he was a private citizen at the time. A private citizen cannot have or cannot form an insurrection, because the very argument of an insurrection is an inside job. You do not have the clout to actually do anything from the outside. Okay, so if Donald Trump wasn't the president, which is what the press wants to say on one side, because Joe Biden won, their argument for an insurrection is completely null and void. But if he was the president, on November 3rd, 2020, with all the organized cheating that was clearly happening, the insurrection happened on the national level with the DNC. And nobody is talking about that. Nobody is talking about that because it's inconvenient to actually analyze the word and interpret it the way that the word was meant to be used. Colorado is stepping out of line because of the fact that there was no inflammatory rhetoric coming out of Donald Trump's mouth on January 6th. He told the people to go forward to the Capitol peacefully and patriotically. Now, what happened after that had nothing to do with the president. Had nothing to do with Donald Trump. Now, there are some rather interesting photographs of Apache helicopters flying over the Capitol building with guns trained on the Capitol building. They weren't trained on the crowd. They were trained on the Capitol building. If it was to go down the way it should have, and the Capitol dome falls and executes every member of Congress, which is the way that it should have went down. That would have been an insurrection. But no, we had protesters being led around by Capitol Police on the inside of a Capitol building, shaking the hands of the police, and that is trespassing. Let's talk about that. A big part of the reason that a lot of these J6ers are locked up is because of criminal trespassing. Who owns the building? Is it not the taxpayers? I guarantee you every member of that crowd probably paid more into the upkeep and even construction of that building, because they're remodeling it on a constant basis, than any member of Congress. Doesn't ownership have to do with who's footing the bill? So if you own the building, how is it trespassing? Just want you to think about that. It's trespassing because it fits the narrative that the deep state wants you to hear. Okay? You want to talk about trespassing? Let's look at the southern border, where none of these people that are coming over the border have ever contributed to the welfare of our society. And yet they get here and we are forking over billions of dollars to for their upkeep and welfare. Who's responsible for that? The traitor in the White House right now. All right, guys. That's what I have for today. Please like, subscribe. The QR code up in the corner is a gateway for you to help support us. I will not take sponsors because I refuse to be told what kind of content I actually put on here. So to maintain the website, to maintain the podcast is all on you. If you like the content, please donate. Please live free, die well, and love your neighbor as Christ has loved you. I'm Anatoly Anatolisova, and this is Patriots Must Rise.